So hello everyone, my name's Daniel Schiffer. I recently graduated from here at QUT, majoring in game design, and as Philip told everyone, I joined up with the Brisbane development scene. Can I get a quick show of hands of everyone who plays Dungeons and Dragons? A lot more than I was expecting. No, that's fair. Yeah, so I'm here to tell you why every game developer should play Dungeons and Dragons, whether you already do or not. So why? You know, the games we know and love, you know, your sports games, your tabletop games, your computer games, they all have rules and systems that are core to the experience, the core mechanics. If you play outside those rules, you're cheating. You know, you're offside in soccer, you're stacking the deck in poker, using aimbot in Call of Duty. You're going against the experience the designer has created for you, those systems in that world, and ruining that experience for you and potentially others. So an example is GTA. So you're limited to the ground you can walk on, the vehicles and that you can drive and fly, the weapons you can use. What you can't do outside of the designer's experience is scale a building, or you can't just fly straight up in the sky. You're limited to what they give you. So it's similar. The example I'd give is in an RPG, you might walk up to a gate and there's a guard and he says you can't go in. So the designer would give you the tools that you would need to find to get past that gate and past that guard. So one might be bribing the guard, or maybe there was a merchant that you helped back, or perhaps there might be a sewer that you can go through and fight your way through some giant rats. In Dungeons and Dragons, you're given that problem, but there's no solutions. There's no way to get past it other than what you can think of. It's up to your imagination. So you have 1,000 different directions that you can come at that problem. So that facilitates thinking outside the box and how different ways you can solve problems. For designers, the character template is fantastic. It covers all bases. It attributes strengths to the history of the character. I actually have started using it since I started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I actually started using this for games that I make as well. So it just really is fantastic for covering all bases. Generally on larger in-depth games, RPGs of course, but more than anything, it gives you insight into the characters and their point of view. You know, it's hard to relate to the villains in your story, get an understanding of their perspective and why they're doing that. So by playing those villains and acting those across, a series of campaigns in this game, you get a better understanding of why, a warlock is striving for power to sacrifice humans. And through that, you can develop better character arcs and come up with better characters on the fly. There's also a great homebrew community. It's great for practice. It's akin to the modding scene in games. They'll give you feedback and critique, and there's a lot of balancing involved for that. So for writers, building on a granular level, a lot of the time you're doing it on the fly. You have characters that are in a town per se. So you would have, say, generally the innkeeper is the first one you might make, or the guards. But you're, figuring out the mysteries and the quirks and the personality of each character on a granular level in this giant world. It's generally done progressively, but it helps. It's helped me learn how to make characters on the fly and just come up with more interesting characters and what's their story, what's their skeleton in the closet. Also how the geography influences the characters and vice versa. So that's a hallmark of particularly fantasy is, the heart of the land, the heart of the people. Certain creatures are only found in certain areas. For example, the ash zombies are different to normal zombies. So an erupt volcano has massacred inhabitants around that volcano, and they've risen up. The difference being when you kill one, it explodes into ash. So it's one way that the geography has influenced the characters. So for level designers, this is probably the most obvious one. It's just generally for learning how to map and design levels. You don't have the same, you're not crafting the same assets. It's not software based. You're just imagining the assets and giving each room a story. So it's good to for pacing out dungeons and levels and giving it, like Ben was saying, a story and that flow. But most importantly, it's about balancing. Unless you have a real core group that you're playing with, 5 or 6 that are coming every time. People have, responsibilities, and they're going to drop in and drop out. Not everyone's going to make the most session. So you're going to be balancing the encounters and the groups of enemies to suit that number of people on the fly. So it's good to really get into that area of level design where you're balancing those core numbers. For artists as well, there's a rich well of lore to draw from. There's hundreds of books and history there. There's a long timeline that you can draw from. But for the most part, it's like a game. You get invested. When you're making a game, you get invested in the characters and the story you're developing, and it motivates you to draw and make content. So it's a great outlet for your work and your animation. We have a female artist in our group who has also taken it as an opportunity to develop a recognizable addition to our portfolio. She's doing concept art, and then she's going to develop that into models and then animation. So there are some examples of what she's drawn. It's been interesting to see. Like a designer, she's taken a bare bones description of a character, very vague what we've given her, as well as how we've acted the characters throughout and brought them to life in very interesting and accurate ways. So she's said it's been good practice for her to, take those specifications and then bring them to life. Programming is understandably less so. There's no software or coding involved, but one thing I've noticed is it is a good alternative to games. So in games, you're restricted to, what they've given you in those rules. And there are only the solutions that they've given you. In games, you're like a designer is giving you a feature. The DM, the dungeon master, has given you a problem, and you must solve that ambiguous problem by coming at it with different directions. And the direction or the choice you make, trying to solve it may not work, or one way might work better than the other. So it's facilitating that thinking outside the box to solve an ambiguous problem. Why else? It remains the best social game experience to this date. The chemistry is undeniable. As much as I like playing Overwatch with some mates on the computer over a headset, it just doesn't compare to the chemistry I get and the rapport you develop with the people you play with. You can't have a brew while playing Pokemon Go, at least not legally. Because someone here who's going to be talking about Pokemon Go, he disagrees with the statement. Yeah, because it's fun, and it's creative. It really is a creative playground. It's just helped develop that thinking outside the box for designers in particular, but I believe it helped. That's important to every developer, thinking outside the box and solving those ambiguous problems. A lot of people don't have many people to play with. I've heard, I've always wanted to play, but I've never had anyone to play with. My friends aren't interested. They'd rather go clubbing, something. There are so many groups in Brisbane, similar to the meetup we host. There's a Brisbane Dungeons and Dragons meetup that has hundreds of people. So, join up, introduce yourself, and you'll find someone easy as. Any questions? Thank thank you for listening.